Too much talent. You ever read the book or seen it? John Maxwell. It's called Talent's Never Enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening to David Coggins. He was
Goggins?
He was on one of Joe's
Yeah.
deal. And
The recent one, or?
yeah.
I just listened to that one, yeah.
Yeah, so he was saying that. I also had that on my list to ask you about. He says, I think the way he puts it is, talent gets you so far, and then you stop, and then mental has to take over. You put out work. He says your mind has to pick up where your talent stops. Kind of basically like that. But same philosophy. You outwork your talent. But sometimes when you come to the table with talent, it could actually be a detriment. So how much of yours is talent? Because I was telling you, I was watching your stuff, and I got juiced up by a couple of them that I want to talk about, like really juiced. Yeah.
Are we live now or what?
Yeah. Are we live?
Oh, okay.
It's always live. Right. It's always hot. It's hot. Hey,
Let's cheers.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. This means a lot to me. And some of the stuff that was.
By the way, that's our first meal.
That's our first meal outside of the
little prosciutto there.
Little prosciutto ham. That's a good first meal. Yeah. What do you eat? Dinner? You're done by 8 and you don't eat again until?
Unless I'm out with
doing stuff.
The boys or.
Dinner it? Is dinner it?
Yeah, I have. The last 3 months, I've reduced to 1 meal a day. I've lost like 12 pounds or so. Wow. I just, anyway, some stuff that came up in my health, I just wanted to
dial it in, get it dialed in.
Yeah.
So how do you work out quite a bit, like every day too, right? I
always
watching something about your routines.
Always move, but I mean, it's not, I like outdoor stuff. My wife does the Peloton.
Yeah.
But I do stuff in weird things outside.
Weird things?
Like get the scissors and go at it until my arms fall off.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
How long have you been doing the 1 meal?
Well, usually 2. So the 1 meal, it's probably the last couple months. Before that, I was at, 2 meals a day.
You get to is it some of it's mental? You get to a point during the day where you're like, fuck, I could eat, or no? It doesn't bother you?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Actually, and it's a good feeling where you have control of it.
Yeah.
Versus the food controlling your appetite.
Yes.
And you feel that at times, and you just, last night happened, so we had ramen and, a spread.
And when you do food, you do it right.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't just bring a piece of meat. You brought a whole fucking pig.
It's a fucking leg.
Well, and you like to cook, too, right?
Mostly
you guys are...
meat stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other stuff my wife does.
Yeah, but you're in the kitchen during the whole time. Family's big for you.
Yeah. It's, 4 kids. And, we used to eat out when we were broke. Just constantly eat out, and we did our, we do our financials, and you see that $3-4 grand is going out and eating out. Did some adjustments there until but our dream was to be able to eat out and not have to look from the right to the left.
Yeah.
The price before what to order.
Yeah.
So that was the ultimate dream. I say ultimate, but that's kind of
yeah.
But we enjoyed eating. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you get that? Was there a moment when you went, I'm sitting at this restaurant and I didn't care? I realized, like, oh shit, I made it.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at what that wine cost.
But
was there a moment?
A decade ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never looked back. Never looked left to right.
No.
Or right to left since.
No. That's it.
That's really impressive, because I listened to some of your story coming from where you came from. You talked about family, and one of the greatest things that I saw of yours was when or 2 things. Let me give you 2 things. One was you were telling a story about writing a check for your first house, and saying to your mom, it wasn't you and Miriam or you and the kids. Maybe there wasn't kids at the time, but you said to your mom, "We're getting out of here." And that struck me as family's big for you. Like, it runs the core. And now, to this day, you and your mom are super close, and
very close,
I got to be a part of that.
She's she's always been my the person that always believed in me, even though other people around me don't. She's my biggest fan. So,
were you close at childhood? How close?
We had I remember being 10 years old, and it was just me. I don't know why it was me, but she brought me to a random park. It's a famous park in the area we lived, and we were there to meditate and pray on a deal that she was doing. And then when she got it, she blamed me for getting it, which is like brainwashing me on, why I'm so good.
Yeah,
Like,
you're kind of a lucky charm.
Yeah, even in school, when I was failing everything, she called me different type of smart. So you don't belong in the 7 types of smart. You're a different kind of smart.
Yeah.
And so she would just embed me with all these commands that helped me out down the years after I look back, after I connected the dots backwards. Because, I had close family friends that were, not friends, family that were doubting me and labeling me certain things.
After you embarked on what you're doing now, or from
No,
the
no,
time you were young?
From the time
Just
I was
always
young. Because I
working under a label.
I held a certain confidence that looked like ego, and some people took it as a teenager.
Yeah.
I had that. So it was people looked at it a different way, as cocky and
But your mom saw
don't
it for
give a
what it
shit
was.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And fostered it.
Correct.
Because it's still there, that
Yeah.
confidence.
So my mom had that, even though I had all these doubters or naysayers. My mom kind of, I don't know. She was my tree.
Did you
my
feel like
rock.
that fueled you a little bit to, I'm going to prove
other
this to,
people?
I'm going to
Oh,
prove
yeah,
this to
yeah.
mom,
Oh, yeah.
for mom, because she
Well, no,
believes it.
in the beginning, no. It was more for proving other people wrong, and then it became about proving people right afterwards. But the proving people wrong was more of a driving force in the beginning,
Yeah.
and then later on it became the proving people right, which is, I think, more healthy
Yeah.
for your soul. The other part is more avenge, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's
But it
not a
worked.
Good, yeah,
It worked.
long term, I don't think it's good for you or your health.
Yeah.
It's
Wow. In the second video that I watched, you bought a Jeep. You remember that one?
oh yeah.
Tell me how that came about.
You scrolled all the way down, man. That's an old video. That was for my dad. That was the start of the journey to Arizona. We bought that here, even though I was in LA. I've been buying cars in Arizona for a while because of the word trade-in tax credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have in most Democratic states. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I bought that here, and got that for my dad, and that was in my driveway in Rancho Cucamonga, right? That's, in fact, I was with Michael Blackson the other day. He said that's where that city got famous because they dropped that name, and they thought it was, what is a city real?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was meaningful just because my dad has never had a brand new car, so that was the first brand new car he's ever had.
Wow. What?
And I think in his life, I'm pretty sure, which
Really?
is pretty crazy because this is in his 60s.
What part of your career were you at when you moved to Arizona and were able to do that? Were you, at that point, you yourself financially independent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, been in financial independence, just to kind of reiterate on the meaning of that, is you have time and money at the same time. It's not one or the other. You got, both.
Yeah.
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 So,
Wow.
yeah.
That had to be a great feeling.
It is. Yeah. About in our 28 or 29 is when we were pretty much free.
And you came from, I like you have been on food stamps. You came from food stamps and
Yeah.
Section 8 housing.
Correct. So the story is I came here at 14 years old. I grew up in, actually, people don't know this, I look Mexican, but my dad's Irish, my mom's Filipino, and from the Vietnam War, my dad moved to the Philippines, and within 5 years met my mom, and that's kind of how the whole thing took place. And I grew up in a town called Baguio, which is kind of nice weather, more like a California weather where it's great weather all year. And that's where we grew up. So that's my childhood. I got a lot of memories there. A lot of, I used to read the book with, Huckleberry Finn, and that's kind of how I grew up with Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn stories.
Yeah.
I can relate to all that, going in lakes and different hiking trails and, so. But yeah, we grew up there, and then we came here I think I was 14 and a half, almost 15. And my dad and mom were divorced at the time, but we started from scratch. So my mom had a little money, well, a decent amount. She thought it was going to last longer than it did. I think 20, 30 grand or so. And it was gone within, 5-6 months. And I have an aunt that knew all the ins and outs of, the welfare system. So we were forced to kind of be in that.
You moved right to California. That's where you
so we were in a city called Diamond Bar, which is borderline Orange County. So we were right there. And we were only in Diamond Bar, not because we were there. It's just my aunt was there. And then my other aunt had a condo that we could stay at temporarily. She actually left that condo, and it was vacant for a month while someone was, repossessing the place.
Oh, wow. So you could be there for that month.
Or foreclosure, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were there for free until that took place. And then we had, and then we moved, a few miles down the street. And then in fact, we were in what was that, I think it's 2 bedrooms. Yeah, 2 bedrooms and a loft. It's a townhouse. And the loft was rented to my cousin. The other bedroom was rented to a coworker or a friend of the family that rented it. My dad ended up coming to the U.S. too, so we're all here. And, they were in good terms. The outcome was to raise the kids with both parents, regardless of how they did. My dad was in the living room, sleeping there. And then my mom was in the master bedroom. And I think, I don't even recall where we slept. And when I say we, me and my brother, my younger brother, and then there's 4 of us. So there's 3 brothers, 1 sister. My sister and my youngest brother probably slept with my mom in the same bed. And I don't know where me and my brother, it's a blank. I remember being in the carpet sometimes next to the bed, and the rest were a blur. I just have no clue where we stayed. I think sometimes in the living room, sometimes somewhere. But that was our beginnings.
Wow, those are formidable years because you were 14, you said, at the time.
So just so you know, I went to high school already in the Philippines. So I came here, I think, 2 years of high school in the Philippines, and then I came here and I did high school again from the beginning. So I was freshman again.
Were you bored out of your freaking mind?
Yeah, there was that. Also, I just didn't know. I mean, I've never really talked about this, but I just didn't know how to fit in because it was a whole different culture. But I'm glad it happened just because there's people that I see that has come to this country before or during high school and after, and there's a disconnect on maybe some relatability or just the way they grow up.
Yeah. So you were 12 when you went to high school in the Philippines.
12 or 13, and then
a couple years.
Yeah, 13, and then the second year was 14, and then we kind of went out.
And you are now having kids that age. What's the school system like? What's in your mind? Is college? I mean, is it a necessity? They're going to college.
Necessity? No.
No.
It's if it embraces their ingenuity and their type of smart, right? Whatever that is. Like I have a son that. I mean, he's my little geek squad, Sebastian. I mean, he just loves, the engineering mind, the scientific mind. He's just a different kind of smart. So for him, yeah, definitely it'd help him out. I have another guy that's an athlete, Nicholas. I don't know. I mean, he's, high school's not helping him, so I don't know if college will.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So 14 to 18, you went the traditional 4 years here once you got here. Same place. So when you write your first check for a house, are you moving out of this townhouse that you described?
No. So Or
you bounced around a bit?
We bounced quite a bit. Yeah. We were. I mean, I could probably name 7, 8 apartments we were in the vicinity, like a 20-mile radius. Yeah. So probably about 7 to 8. And I don't know why we moved, but my mom liked to move, and some of that rubbed on to me. So. But yeah, that's that, and we even moved to Van Nuys, but West Covina. The first house was in Covina, California.
That you purchased?
Yeah.
With what, 17 grand? Did you say?
$17,500 was a down payment.
Yeah.
Which was the house was $235,000.
And what got you? Were you in the business at this point? the business of insurance?
No, I was actually in real estate.
Okay.
So I was in real estate.
Is that what your mom did? You said she was closing deals.
No, she was working for HR in a large company out in Pomona.
Okay.
And so she was doing that. She was salary position, and that was it. And then so trying to feed the family, and my dad was working for the government, helping out with votes and counting votes and all that.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing real estate. You've
Well,
obviously closed a couple deals there.
Well, the transition of that was I was in high school. You know, just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I didn't get it. None of it made sense. There was a church when we were in Diamond Bar. There was a church across the street, Christian church, and it just called my name every day, so I would go there every day. I would walk. We didn't have a car, so I would walk there. There was a gas station and then the church, and I would go there every day just to look for answers. I just didn't know why we were here, because we left a life where we had a maid, driver, and it was a good life. My mom had a business, and then we come here. Now we're in welfare, Section 8, WIC. We're recycling bottles, and none of it I saw as bad, but I knew there was something better. I mean, it couldn't be just this. I was collect call to friends, and they were picking it up, and I was just lonely, super lonely, and just to start from the beginning and know no one, right?
Yeah.
Me and my brother had a lot of friends, so we had, I don't know, hundreds in the back home.
Yeah.
So until today we connect. When we go there, it's like we didn't lose a moment.
Wow.
Yeah, so we came here. I was calling collect call every day. There was a payphone. In fact, there was payphone hacks that I found out, where if the phone call didn't work or it got, you can call, I don't know if it was 611 or something, like customer service, and I would be able to get a minute of phone call, and that would bring me so much joy when I called someone just to get a minute with them.
Yeah,
so I was striving for just connection, and
Yes.
I couldn't get it. So maybe the church gave that to me, just because there was no outlet for it.
And you found it at the church?
Yeah, I didn't know anybody, so I would just walked in there like just lone teenager with a T-shirt on and shorts, and just walking around, and no one really. I was kind of ignored there, which didn't really matter, but I was there for just to seek for answers, and so throughout my teenage years, I was just rebelling and kind of just looking for answers, and if I counted how many high schools, I mean, I think 4. I think I went to 4 different high schools, and eventually, during the last 2 years was in South Hills, which is in West Covina, and it's a great school. In fact, when I went there, all the schools I was in had fences on. This one didn't, and sometimes when there's a fence, you want to climb it.
Yep.
So I was out of the school, and then I went to this school. There was no fence, and I wasn't compelled to leave. Yeah, and I stayed there and enjoyed it and made some friends, and that's where I graduated. And from there, I was looking at, in the latter part of senior year, I was looking at odd jobs. I sold, those white, it's so weird to say it now, but white vans that there was 10 kids in there selling candy.
Yep.
I don't know if you ever done one of those. That didn't last. I mean, that was a couple weeks. I'm like, what is this? So I was selling candy.
You move up to encyclopedias after that, and then Cutco.
Yeah, and I was selling cable. That one was several months, and then I picked up a job when I got my car, which I had a Toyota Corolla 1990. Bought it for $800. It didn't come with a bumper. I had to buy my own bumper because it's $800. They said figure it out. Yeah. Which had a great engine. It's Corolla. It was I think 100,000 miles.
Last forever.
Yeah, white, and I bought a bumper and spray painted it myself. Taped the part where it's black and put that in black so it matches the car. That was my first car. So that was $800, and I worked at Papa John's delivering pizza. Finally got a job. I applied probably a dozen places. None of them would take me. They all want experience. How do you get experience when you don't have any?
Right.
Papa John's took me, and so I was driving, and then when you're not driving, you're folding boxes and cleaning the floors.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, what is this? This is interesting. And back then it was $5.25 plus tip, and that was it. And then I still know how to fold the box. I still literally have a, what do you call that? Muscle memory.
Yeah.
On how to fold the boxes.
And your floors are damn clean.
Yeah. So from there, I picked up a penny saver ad one day. I was at this time I was 18 already, and me and my dad were living together. My mom was out with lived with my stepdad, and so I was with my dad in an apartment, and so we had our own spot there. Actually, this is before that, but I picked up a penny saver ad, and I saw a telemarketing position for a mortgage company at $10 an hour. So $10 an hour, and it said plus bonus. So I was intrigued because that was going to be double my salary.
Yeah.
Plus I can enhance my value by whatever it was. I had no clue what it was. So I showed up. It was building with stilts right by In-N-Out in Garvey Avenue and Barranca. Right, it was a spot right there. And I interviewed, and I think I was hired. I think that day or the next day, or no, I did an interview and I was hired that night or the next day. It was pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And so I was pretty stoked about this. I mean, this is, it's like double the salary. And so I started there, and our job was to make calls. So we were doing
pound the phones.
Yeah. And it was an automatic dialer.
Yep.
We had the headphones just like this.
Yeah.
And it would dial 250 to 500 calls a day. And I'd be fired up about it. And we followed a script. And we said this, it meant this, and we got this. And then there was some few people there that coached me, and it worked out. I was soaking it, I was like a sponge because I wanted to learn. I was eager to be somebody. And within 6 months, 6 months to a year, I got my real estate license. And eventually I was, getting so much leads, or 1003 in the mortgage language. We're getting so much 1003. That was our job, is just to get applications, and then we hand it to the loan officer. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I became the loan officer that was handed the leads, just because the loan officer I was giving to didn't know how to close. Wow. So eventually, I became that guy, and then eventually, I asked the owner of the place. I said, "Can I just be on? Can you just make me an independent contractor? Because give me a better commission, forget the salary, I could be an independent contractor," and he wouldn't give it to me. So I ended up leaving the place, but that place was my starting ground it gave me, just a platform to win, So it just gave me an outlet for my ambition and my drive.
Good sales training.
Yeah.
You don't even realize at the time when you're getting that job that you're getting trained in excellent sales techniques.
And I brought my brother there. And if my brother's in business with me for the last 18 years. But even before that, we were working together. In fact, in Papa John's, this is a funny story. I had four, back then it was a Thomas guide to kind of navigate. And you write down the directions manually on a piece of paper. And fuck, I'm so bad at directions still today. I have to map, even right now, I've been here for 2.5 years in Arizona. I map out everything. I just put a note. Yeah. But if I had that back then, I'd be the best.
Killing it.
Oh yeah. So back then, I'm behind on deliveries. I have 4 of them. I call my brother up, and we've always been tag team, with everything we did. So I call him up and I go, "Nate, can you help me out? I'm behind on some deliveries, and my manager's going to get mad at me." And so I give him the address, have him go there. I give him the pizza. I said, "Give this soda away just because you're late already, and I'm going to be late too." So I was giving sodas
as a consolation. Yeah.
Correct, for being late.
Yeah.
Assuming they'll give me tip if I gave the soda. And so anyway, he was delivering it. I was delivering it. I almost ran over somebody in a motorcycle. He was doing it, and he went to a house, and he was late on it, and the customer called the manager, and called the manager while he was there. So he ends up talking to the manager on the phone and talking to him like it was me.
Thinking it was you. Yeah. With a 2-liter of soda in his hand.
He's getting scolded for being late and offering the pizza for free, giving a soda. He doesn't even work at Papa John's.
You took one for the team.
Yeah,
That's
my
loyalty.
brother, man. He's a good dude, man.
And you brought him along, or you guys went along
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, and this is our whole life together. So even from Papa John's days to the mortgage days, he was there.
Doing the
I
same
basically
thing.
got all my whatever friends I had that wanted to do something, that had some ambition, I brought them in. So it was.
And
I
so
always
this was
wanted
the
to help
first
people.
time you tasted the independent side of things when you left the calling center and said, "I'm going to do this mortgage thing by myself."
Yeah, and I came across someone, and we went to an event. We went to an event that was a sponsored event. It was a fashion show of some sort, and I met a lady there that was introduced to me by someone that hosted the event, which is funny because it's the same event that I met my wife. So it's kind of all goes back.
Meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is I meet her. She was the broker there, and I think we got to talking within a week or two, and she wanted a location in the city that I was in. So she offered me a position to have the location and have ownership in it, where I can have, a nice
But
override.
run your own shop?
Yeah, run my own shop. She provides the facility, and signs the lease and does all that, and I get to lead it. So I went from being an employee or Papa John's,
Yes.
employee of a,
How long was
telemarketing
that? Was
firm.
that a 12? What kind
It
of
wasn't
a
even
span?
that long. Yeah, it was
few months.
a year and a half.
From Papa John's to
Yeah. So
some
within that,
success in the mortgage business.
and this is, so think about it. I bought my first home at 19. That's when I was at the telemarketing job,
Mm-hmm.
right? Call it marketing just to
We'll class
make
it up a
sound-
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Telemarketing it's a thing of the past now.
Yeah, it truly is.
There's no home phones, and so that's
Caller ID gets
yeah.
in the way a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got your sign up front in your door, right? No soliciting.
Let's not be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that. And so that's, so that was at 19. So think about a booster in your confidence. This is igniting the fire within.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I have a photo. I still have it till today. I have it on. I need to have that on digital copy. Just thinking about that. But I have a photo, put my sunglasses on. And we have a thing that we say now, put on your sunglasses because your future is bright. But I don't know why I put my sunglasses on. I put my sunglasses on, and I had I don't know who took the picture, but I had my mom next to me. I spread out $17,500 on a coffee table that came from a thrift shop. Actually, all the furniture there came from some sort of thrift shop.
Yeah.
And so we spread it all out. I said, Mom, we did it. And I say we because she believed in me.
Yeah.
So I spread out the money, and it was, till today I can weep.
Picture that.
Yeah.
Ah.
It's,
I'm getting tingles.
there's no, the house we lived in was a Section 8 home. So it was, I don't know, $1,500 a month, and $700 was subsidized by the government. $800 was ours. And I say ours because I was helping out with whatever I could with the household, being the oldest son.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I spread it out. In the summers, we were sweating there, just because it doesn't have an AC unit. It just had a blower. I don't know what you call them, a cooling fan.
Yeah.
On the ceiling, and there's one of them. And it was only in the living room. So if you were in the bedroom, you were sweating. Yeah.
And I've been into your house today.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And but
Oh my
while we were
God.
there, also at that house, we had one thing I was doing while doing mortgages, or at least working for that company, was I was call it slanging, but I was selling cars.
Mm-hmm.
I'd pick it up from the penny saver. I said, what if I can negotiate a certain amount and sell at the same amount they were asking for or better, because I enhanced it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I got good at negotiating by selling a bunch of Ford Escorts and Hyundai when Hyundai sucked.
Yeah.
At that point.
By
But
contacting the owner,
correct, negotiating
a lower payment.
having cash with me to buy it at the spot, and then I would change the tires or armor oil, polish the leather,
so it looks
whatever,
nice, and
yeah.
you're out the door with
and
with a
then
profit.
come up. I buy it for $800 or $1,200 or $1,500, sell it for a couple grand or $1,500, and that's how I made some income also outside of mortgages.
So, but that was a side gig while you were in the mortgage business,
While I was doing
making
telemarketing.
making decent
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. As a telemarketer, I was making 2 to sometimes $4,000 a month. And by the way, my hours, this is during high school, right before I graduated. I was still in high school. I was a high school guy getting loan application for mortgages. And I started to learn rates and how they work and par and rebates and how these wholesalers work. I was a 18-year-old working, learning how this language works.
Yeah. Direct from Papa John's University.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
And but even that wasn't there was still something inside. There was still some kind of drive or desire for then you to go, I might have found another niche play that I could do. I think most people, and back then 4,000, right? I mean, I know you're not that old, but back then 4,000 is quite a bit more than it would be today.
Huge.
Yeah. But to still have that drive inside and go, yeah, but I still want to take these cars. You didn't have to. I still want to find these cars and negotiate a deal and make a side gig hustle out of that.
Right.
There's a lot of hustle in here.
Yeah, my hours was 4 or 5. I think it's 4. Yeah, 4 to 9 p.m.
After
This
school.
is after school.
After school.
So I went from school straight there, which is down the street from the school. So literally, it's I think half a mile from the school, which worked out.
Yeah.
So I'd drive my little Toyota Corolla to school. I mean, from school to there.
To the marketing building.
Yeah.
And then sometime on the weekend, you'd negotiate prices on cars.
Exactly.
And flip the cars.
Yep.
Wow.
Shine the
You got
tire.
some drive, baby.
And then
some drive.
I don't know how cars work though. So I had, and I figured out some family friends that knew how to do certain things, and I'd just cut them a check or leverage that whole thing.
Wow.
Everything I didn't know about it, because I didn't know shit. Nothing at all.
Well, it's clear why you got where you got today. I mean, when you have that kind of a drive, when you're doing things that most people I think would be super satisfied with, there was still something there going. There's more. There's more. Let's take like a 2-minute. We'll light up a cigar and a.
Is it? All right.
I want to ask you about the church thing. Do you still have faith? And if you do, does it play a role in what you do on a daily basis?
Oh yeah, that's critical, man. I think it's belief is everything, man. What you believe in, and that knowing that, there's a higher power that's guiding you. Different, it's just like, I was just thinking about it on the way here. I was just like, man, give me the strength to give value, to serve, to give, to love. I mean, it's one of my prayers every day to share, regardless of what takes place, to just contribute to the world, and regardless of what takes place. And so it's my guiding force. Yep.
Has that rubbed off on, obviously it's going to rub off on the generation beneath you, your kids. Mm-hmm. How about your folks? Do they see that? Because you found that absent of your folks. Like some people get it handed down, traditions and beliefs. You found it on your own. Does any of that trickle upward? Do they see that inside of you and say, I want to
probably more my kids. I mean, on my parents' side, I mean, I grew up Catholic, and then, I was baptized and grew up Catholic, and then kind of found my own in my teenager years.
Does it work its way into business at all? Outside of your thought process?
I think so, because I'm in a business where we talk about this freely. It's not, there's no HR that's going to say, hey,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now the good stuff. Now the nuggets, brother. I've been waiting for this. 1 tequila down, a little cigar, and some prosciutto. I saw a video of you coaching, and you said, and this juiced me up. So I spent a little bit of time trying to learn, more so than I know about you. And we've spent some time together.
Yeah.
But then I started digging, and it was about 9:30. I'm kind of an early bed guy, so 9 to 10. I'm trying to cut it off. My wife will stay up till 12 or 1. So when I'm trying to cut it off, I'll read, or in this case, do some research. And I couldn't sleep for about an hour after that. So I saw this video and I went, I got to keep going on this one. So and that video was you saying to somebody, you have to be ready to win. What does that mean to you?
I think preparation for winning is a big thing. So you preparing yourself to win. So preparing to receive. So when you're not ready to receive, it's almost like you sabotage your own success when you're not ready to receive. So you do weird shit, right? Because your identity is at certain degrees and all that. And so I don't know, preparation is everything. So for example, we used to do inspection in cars with our agents. We would inspect their cars. This is back in the day where we actually went out in the field.
Paper applications.
Correct.
Yeah.
We would inspect their car and see if, is their car clean? Because you could be judged by a dirty car, right? I mean, we say don't judge a book by its cover, but everybody, for most part, most people are visual, so they're judging. So one is, we're going to do random inspection of your car. We would go outside in a parking lot. We had this office in Covina where we had our own one-story office, 6,000 square feet, had its own parking lot. Everybody would park there, and we would just stop the meeting, and we'd go, let's go outside, let's check your car. Pop up your trunk. And we would see if they're prepared. So I would go, man, if someone came up to you and you go, I want to be a client right now, and I need $1 million policy, or I want to move my money to you, or I move my investments to your firm, are you ready to receive? And if the answer is no, what are you waiting for? It's just you weren't ready the whole time. So it's either you're avoiding success or you're trying to just put a hindrance between you and you winning. So being ready is a big, somebody that's ready would have applications in there. In fact, some of it would even be pre-filled out. The signatures would be highlighted. Like this is in the day where everything was paper app. We would have everything highlighted. There would be sticky notes on where they had to sign. And so we would have all that. So the people that were prepared to receive all had that. So we prepared their minds in meetings so they're ready to receive. And in part of our job as a leader was to alter or at least enhance their identity on how they see themselves. Because most people don't win because they see themselves as a certain way. They see themselves as the family that was in welfare, or this guy, whatever the case might be, or the boy from south side of Chicago, right? I got a good friend of mine. I know you guys from Chicago, but a very good friend of mine that's very successful is from south side of Chicago, and he grew up very poor and a lot of gangs around him, and it's just a different way of living. And so I got to be able to shift the way I look at me or look at things also, so I can start to receive a certain way.
So
start to accept.
Part of it is the preparation.
Because success is always around you. It's just a matter of, do you see it or not? Sometimes we don't see it because we don't believe we deserve it.
That, and maybe your mind is cluttered with a bunch of bullshit too. I mean, you're always thinking about all the reasons why it shouldn't happen or maybe won't happen, or I got to run and do this with the kids, or I got to run and it's just like just cluttered. It's just a cluttered mess up there.
A lot of it is I learned this in a bunch of Tony Robbins seminar. A lot of times the story we have on why we can't have it is the very reason why we don't.
Yeah.
So we have stories like I'm too young, I'm too old, I don't know enough, or I'm not prepared, right? I don't have the knowledge, or whatever the story is, and whatever the story you have that you keep repeating to yourself is
what you end up living.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so by the way, I was a lot of this stuff that while I was making money, or at least thought I was making good money, at least at the time, because a lot of that I related to helping my mom, at least at the time, single mom with 4 kids, and eventually help out my dad also. A lot of that I related to, everything I did was to improve myself, to become better so I can provide better. And so I was thinking about this. I was at Molina, which is the jewelry store the other day. And I just remembered when I was there, they had cigars and drinks and food and all that stuff. And I was there, and I said, man, I remember this while I was there smoking cigars with a bunch of guys. And I was thinking about it. I said, I was here because I knew about Molina, but I'd never been to his store or at least been inside.
Yep.
I'd seen it from the outside. So when I was there, I said, I was here 15 years ago in a Tom Hopkins seminar when I drove here because I wanted to just improve myself and win because I needed something, right? Whether it's language, mindset, whatever it is. So we were here. Me and my wife were here for Tom Hopkins seminar in Scottsdale with Robert Kiyosaki. In fact, we bought the Robert Kiyosaki's local.
Yep.
He lives there. I've been. I've been to the gym with him a couple of times in Biltmore at Lifetime, and I've spoken to him and I told him, kind of how I followed him and used his educational stuff and all that. But so we've been going here since then and improving ourselves, right, with all this stuff. And man, it's just nice to just reflect on that, So
the path that you,
from Tom Hopkins seminar to Tony Robbins, and it's just not so much on the seminar, which the seminar did a lot for us. Like I started my marriage with a Date with Destiny.
Well, that lays some groundwork, doesn't it?
Yeah, Date with Destiny.
Yep.
I don't know if you've done any Tony Robbins seminar.
Yeah, I know what they are. I've never been to one, but
okay.
I've seen them.
Yeah, Date with Destiny is intense. It's like 4 or 5 days. You're sleeping at 3 o'clock at night, waking up at 6 or 7, going
back at it.
Yeah, back at it.
Yeah.
And it was about discovering your values. And, I think most divorces, they talk about money as one of the reasons, but values would be a big thing. If we're not headed to the same direction, eventually we grow apart.
You have to, yeah. It's really interesting to me. Now, tell me real quick, back up to you were doing the mortgage thing.
I went in.
Because you were very successful doing that. And that's how you met Miriam, yes, in that mortgage?
No, I was stalking her in a bunch of, what do you call these? Freaking fashion shows.
Oh, okay. So we can talk about the stalker.
Yeah. So she was in the fashion show. I was in the audience, and
gotcha.
Any fashion show that came to play, I figure, that would be a place to hunt.
Yep. You picked a good spot to hunt.
A place to look.
Okay. So get me back to when you were in the mortgage business. You went independent, and you were successful doing that. You had people that were working with you, that you had brought, whether it be your brother or other folks. Would you say at that point you were living a middle-class American life as you would see it, as you would, someone would see it on TV?
Yeah.
You weren't hurting.
No, I was making 6 figures. I bought cars cash when
Okay, so this is the point that I want to drill in on, because I think this is where most people sit. I think your story is amazing in that you don't hear the Section 8 to millionaire story very often. But what I hear a lot of are the middle class people that stop there, and they're content. And there's nothing wrong with that, but they're content. They're not content. They're there, and they want to get to that next level, but they never do. And so they live this, I would say, mediocre life, because in their brain they see themselves as something bigger and badass, but their life doesn't portray that. So clearly in your brain you saw yourself as that, and your life was a good life, but not where you thought it needed to be. What caused that trigger to trip where you said, this is all fine and good, but I got to take it to another whole level, get out of this industry into another one, start Dream Givers, and let's go balls to the wall, even though you probably were going balls to the wall then.
Correct.
Well, what changes that?
I probably would have done good too. That was a good time. I left real estate in the height of it. In fact, I sold a house in 06. When did it start dropping? I think it's
07, 06, 07, 08 was
so
pretty
January,
pretty
I
horrible.
closed escrow on a house. Closed escrow to sell it. And I made like 70 grand on it. The first house I had, that was the first one at 19. I sold that and made 35 or 40 grand. The next house I made 100,000 or something. That was the second house. But during that transition, my brother was going to DeVry, and right down the street from the company I work with now. But he was going to DeVry, and there was a seminar that he got invited at, and we all went, my mom, him, me, and we all went to this seminar. And I enjoyed it, liked it, and I was like, what else is out there? And so, to answer your question, probably the biggest thing on it, and at that time, just so you know, so I went there, and I came back for the interview. Literally, no one was there. So somebody didn't show up, so I was calling, and then somebody else showed up in return for them, and me and my mom, we came to that interview, and we got kind of turned off. And we left. And for about 6 months, there was this lady that just followed up. This is a good, this is a good lesson on following up. Probably followed up for 6 months. This is somebody that's not even in the business anymore. Followed up. Every other week, I would get a phone call. Ring, ring. And back then, I had an Ericsson phone.
Yeah.
You know, the Ericsson?
Flip it open.
Oh, yeah. Flip it open. When you want to hang up, you flip it back up. So I'd open it up, and I would close it back down. And that's how you hang up on somebody back there. Either that or you took off the battery. That's the only way to hang up. There's no ignore, none of that shit. So I would open it up, close it down. And then one day, I had a family listing, so somebody in the family. I listed a house for $1.4 million. So just so you know, when I transitioned to that real estate company, I was doing mortgages and real estate. I was showing homes on a weekend, doing loans on a weekday. I was doing both. And I didn't have kids at the time. I was just going at it. I was just, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hustle. I enjoyed my brother being there, my other best friends that were there, and we were making money together. And so I always enjoyed that aspect too, which kind of led me to what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. But while we're doing that, so I sold this house, $1.4 million in Anaheim Hills, and the broker I was with didn't pay me the whole amount. And anyway, didn't pay me the whole amount because he said her son helped me out on something, which is bullshit. Mm-hmm. I could have done it. This is a relative. It's not even, Anyway, that's another story, which who gives a fuck?
It turns out that was the best thing that's ever happened to you.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. So because I got a phone call, I don't know if it's that day or a few days after, where I flipped the Ericsson phone and I left it open and I listened. And this lady said, come on over, take a look at it. And I was receptive to the message because my broker just screwed me on something. So I ended up showing to the office, and they showed me the platform A to Z, and I go, man, I like this. And so I get started, and I never looked back since. I mean, I started as a twin career, so I was doing real estate and the financial services in the same time. And then what I realized, and back to your question, is, man, these people are happier than almost everyone I met, at least where I was working at, So I had, a broker that was making maybe close to $1 million a year, or maybe even over $1 million. I know she was a multi-millionaire, but just constantly with a face of worry and constantly in this space of, it's this never-ending, this energy of just panic that I didn't see on this other side. So when I saw that, it was common sense. I looked at it. I go, man, I like to follow this versus this. Yeah. And that's kind of how it switched. Wow. And I was around that for the next decade and a half. And that's kind of what shaped my whole being. So when there was a platform where I won, it was, although there was a place to celebrate it and you became somebody and you set your family free, but there was always another level. And it was almost not about the money, but who you became. And that was the spirit of, that was the journey of personal growth. And it became real to me. And everything I did prior, whether it's a seminar or whatever I did to improve, and when I say we or me, it's always being me and my wife from the beginning. We've done this together since inception. In fact, I remember having our first child, and this is the extent of our commitment. And this is as we transition to financial services already, just because we had certain associations already, and a guy named Ed Milet that's helped us out in the beginning, and a guy named Dan Charlier that's helped personally mentor me and teach me the power of association. In fact, I got an office prematurely, way before I should have had one, right in between two of the most successful people. One of us, Dan Charlier, another one was Christopher Schleiman. I put smack in the middle. And when I didn't have appointments, I would listen into theirs and see how they did it. And back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I sound like I'm old, man. 2005, 2006, you could still buy tape recorders from Walmart where you have a cassette in it.
Yep. Yep.
And I would have those cassettes because there was no voice recording on the phone yet. And I'd record it, sneak it in somewhere in their office, and I would get the whole presentation on recording. And that recording I would use to own another set of language so I can utilize that because my vocabulary was limited. My language was limited. And if you limit your vocabulary and your language, there's only certain things you can communicate.
100%. I see that. I love to write songs.
Yeah.
And
if I had a career change, it would be a singer if I had the talent.
yeah,
But talent, you know.
it's talent and timing. You can do it. So, what do we say? Your mental can overtake the talent. But I learned that a couple years ago. So I'd always written songs, and I started pulling them out over the years, and like, that wasn't that great to me anymore. And I started to open my mind up to, I think you might say there's a mentality of famine or a mentality of more than enough. And I was always in that famine mentality where I didn't want to share anything. I wanted to just, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it myself. And then when I started to co-write and find these guys and girls that were great at what they did, what I realized is all they were doing is opening my brain up to something that I never would have thought of by myself. It's in there. You have it in there. I had it in there, but I didn't know how to get it out because I was just used to what I was used to. I did what I always did, right? And it was the same chords or variation of those chords. Some of the same lyrics were always popping out because it was just what I
Have you played music
had.
since you were young? Or?
Yeah, I started, I was on a church stage. My mother has a picture of me with a tambourine at like age 3 or 4
Oh, wow.
with a church band, so it was always been in my blood.
How about guitars? When did that start?
Guitars started, so
That's
drums,
my fantasy, by the way.
drums,
Is to be able to
guitars,
play, yeah.
well, that we can make happen.
Yeah.
That's
I
one,
know how to do
that's
it.
one fantasy I can
Piano,
help you with.
Piano I do, but guitar, I would just love to, because you can't just bring a piano anywhere.
Yeah,
But
you're right.
the romantic side of me would love to bring an instrument and just sing.
Let's get on it, bro. Let's do it.
And sing to my lady or my kids and my daughter.
Three chords and we're rocking
Yeah.
and rolling.
Yeah.
I started with drums actually because I would just pound. So I would make sticks out of whatever I could find, and then I would set up. Do you remember the old Quaker Oats?
Sorry.
Yeah, Quaker Oats boxes or Quaker Oats. They were tall cylinders of oatmeal, and every time my mom would throw one out, I'd take it, I'd cut it in half, and I'd set it up on the bed, and then I would just pound those until they broke, and as a drum set. And so then they started buying me sticks.
I'm imagining your son right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So they started buying me sticks, and I grew up in a very conservative Christian household where a lot of music was frowned upon, especially the music that had beats, and guitars. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted. That was in there. So they would buy me sticks, and I'd go with my dad on deliveries. He was self-employed, and he'd go on deliveries. And
Is that your pops? I just met?
yeah,
Oh, nice.
yeah. He's in from Chicago. He's 79 now, about to be 80.
Oh,
he's
wow.
still
He looks
working. He's
good.
still doing his thing.
Looks so good.
I think that's part of it. Is he stays active, right?
Yeah.
But he'd take me on deliveries when I'm 8, 9 years old, and I'd take those drumsticks, and I thank him to this day for this, because now looking back, I didn't realize what he was giving me at the time, but he would pop in cassettes, and I would play drums to it, and I would use the armrest as the hi-hat and the dashboard as the drums. And I'd play it so much that the dashboard would split.
Jeez.
And now I can think about, like, I don't know that I would let my son do that, and yet he let me just split his dashboards open, which is pretty amazing. Then they put me in piano, which I resisted. I think they wanted me to be a little more classical in my playing.
Yeah.
And so drums didn't fit that. And so we went to play piano, and I think at first I was taking lessons, not super into it. Thank God that they made me do that, though, because it's such a great foundation. And then guitars came after that. And slowly at first, my dad had an old acoustic guitar. And so I learned to play right-handed. I'm left-handed, but I play guitar right-handed because that's just what was there. That's all I had to play. So I went into guitar after that. But, yeah, my whole life. And I think I really tried to be that as a career for a long time. And I think there's a talent and timing thing that I didn't nail. I think I have the talent. But you mentioned this person that kept calling you. you clearly had the talent, but it took the right timing, and it took something to happen. We're not getting paid to then be receptive.
Yeah.
And it was the timing mixed with your talent. And I had the talent. I don't think I ever got that timing right. And I think now it's really important to hear what you said about why you made the switch from mortgage to the financial services, because it wasn't a money thing. And I think that's where most people get stuck and I was this way. I always had a money goal in my life, because when I first went out, I got married at 19.
Well, I think if you don't have any, it's always the goal.
Right.
Until it's kind of.
Until you have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I went out on my own, and I was, married at 19, had a kid at 19, and started that whole process, I never really had money. So there was plenty of times where we had the WIC program and all that stuff. So there was always a money goal.
This is during having kids.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
I got married to my ex-wife at 19, and had my first son at 6 months later. You can do the math, but that's one of the reasons why we got married. Is we were a very conservative household, and you didn't have kids unless you're married, right? So, got married, did that whole thing, had 2 more kids right back to back to back to back, and the whole time during this process, I'm still trying to be a rock star. That's what I was still into. And then realizing that doesn't pay the bills, and I don't like being poor, and so I'm going to start working. And I responded to an ad. You mentioned the Penny Saver. I used to deliver the Penny Saver, but there was an ad in the Penny Saver that said, "Work 4 days a week, make $1,000." I'm like, wow, I was 19. That sounded great. Yeah. So I went up and then I interviewed with this guy. His name is Walt Cunnington, and it was health insurance sales to small businesses. Back when you could get a temporary insurance license. I don't think that exists anymore, but as long as you had someone sign off that had a license, you could give someone.
I remember that from my mentors.
Yeah, you could give a temporary license. Yeah. So I got that, and at 19, I started pounding on businesses' doors trying to sell health insurance.
This is how you got in the industry? Or?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
total.
Holy.
And I didn't know what I was doing. No one, he didn't say this is insurance sales. He said, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set 10 appointments. You're going to see 3 of them. 7 of them will probably cancel or reschedule. And out of those 3, you're going to sell 1. 10-3-1. I remember it to this day.
That is funny.
And
we shared the same thing.
Yeah. That was it. So I was like, well, I didn't know any better. And thank God I didn't know any better. I think now if I would have known, and you talk about mindset.
Ours is 10-7-3.
10-7-3. Oh, you have better odds than I did.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was always 10-3-1. And not until we started to get the leads, which turned out to be just kind of postcards. They weren't really leads, but postcards of businesses in a town. So we drive to a town, and you realize what you're doing is you're selling insurance. And so by the time that sunk into me, how difficult that is, because it was commission only, no salary. Yeah. I was already on my way. I had already been making commissions. So now looking back, I go, well, that should have been really scary for me, but I just didn't know any better at the time. That's how I got into the business. So that's a long story to say that the music has always been there. And now that's the key for me.
What do you think of people that say follow your passion?
That's a great question. And I think my answer would be...
Because I got some answers on that. But.
Yeah. So my answer would be, I think you have to identify your passion first, and that's really what's important.
Is that the right way?
That's to turn it down.
Okay, because I was starting to burn.
You have to identify. I think the problem is people don't identify their passion. And I think what they will tell you their passion is, if you continue to dig deep under that, you just got to make sure that's your passion. Because I would say...
Well, let me interject. So if my passion is to be like, I would love to do R&B and freaking Usher and, Neo. I mean, this kind of performance, right? But I don't think I can ever succeed in it. It's just sometimes passion is overrated, where, I'm passionate about it, but doesn't mean it can help my family succeed. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I would identify your passion if I was just meeting you. Yeah. I wouldn't say that was your passion. I would say that's a desire that you have to experience and do. There's lots of that. I desire to, we went to Italy. My wife desired to experience some of her roots. Yeah. I wouldn't live there, but I desired to be there and experience that and to take all that in. You may jump up on a stage with Usher at someday, and absolutely love it.
Grab the mic.
Grab the mic, and then
Do some moonwalk.
yes, and then that has, and then you're, wow, there it is. Now you've experienced that, and maybe because it seems like so far off there, you identify it as a passion. I think if I had to say what your passion was, I would say, based on what we've talked about today and seeing some of your videos, it's family and being able to be generous and help other people. Those are three passions that continuously come out in all of these talks. And in this last hour, those are themes that just keep coming up. You're not saying them, but the background to those, the things you're saying, seems to be coming down to that. And I think unless you're miserable right now, which you're clearly not, you must be living out that passion, because that's what makes you fulfilled. So I think identifying the passion to me is the most important step, because then I would say, yeah, now burn your boats. If that's truly your passion, burn the rest of your boats and dive off. Yeah. You did that. I feel like you have so much of your energy is focused towards family, helping others, and being generous that you're living that passion. And now you have desires outside of that. But that maybe is a little different. I wouldn't say burn your boat to try to be an R&B singer, but let's get you up on that stage at some point. And it's not because you don't have the talent. I really think if you put your mind to it, you would have it.
How about we do a music video together?
Hassan?
Yeah.
What do you think? Music video next? Okay. He's giving me the thumbs up.
We jump in the pool with our ladies, figure out something. MTV Cribs back in the day. Yeah.
But I truly think you have, especially people with your mindset, you have the ability to do it. It may sound silly to say that, but you have the ability
with
to do
auto-tune,
it.
yeah.
With auto-tune. The right people and the right, we can buy listeners on
Luda.
Spotify.
I could throw some Luda.
Totally. I think it's that. There is an element of talent, but if you're playing piano, you have some of that in you already. So I think that you could put that aside. You can outwork your talent.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what I was listening to on the way here? Not that I do this all the time, which I do. I listen to soundtracks of movies that I like. So whether it's Braveheart, Superman, I had the Superman theme song.
Yeah.
Coming here.
Yeah.
Not that I'm Superman, but sometimes
it juices you.
Yeah, it does. Braveheart, even Gladiator.
Yeah.
All these, when he picks up the dirt and kind of he's getting ready to give it all he got and lose his life if he needs to, just to save his family.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that shit juices me up.
Is that a playlist, like a get shit done playlist, when you have to lock yourself in and go, I got to accomplish a few things right now for the next 30 minutes? Is there a playlist for that, or is that what it is?
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is.
I got a bunch of playlists. I like instrumental stuff because I like to create my own lyrics, and my lyrics is my affirmation or anything I want to affirm about myself, because sometimes we all struggle at least me, from self-confidence or whatever the case might be.
Someone looking from the outside in wouldn't think you struggle with self-confidence. How much of that is mindset versus? That means you have to overcome.
Yeah, there's still doubt. Yeah, it's funny you say that, but I'm perceived that way. Doesn't mean I exist that way the whole time. There's still prepping. We talked about preparation to win, or receiving, or being ready to win. A lot of that.
And you're still doing that, in other words.
Every day.
Yeah.
And when I don't feel the same way. I think that's an ongoing thing we need to do as human beings to be able to be blessed more. I think we got to be able to be prepared to win, be prepared to receive. So I do certain rituals every day that just helps me out. 4 or 5 different things that help me out.
Exercise, eating. We talked about eating. Talked about a little what you like to do outside.
Yeah. Meditation's
part of that.
I do a breathing exercise from Wim Hof. I don't know if you heard of Wim Hof. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So cold shower. I do a total immersion of just emotional flood. Something I learned from Tony Robbins. Mm-hmm. And emotionally flood myself with things that juice me up, like the birth of my son, my first son especially, my daughter, and obviously my other two sons in
Yeah.
between. Those things juice me up. The day of my wedding, when I spent every penny I had in my savings just to give her the dream wedding, because no one would help out. Or not help, they couldn't.
Right.
There's nobody else that could help monetarily, so I spent 35 grand of my savings and put it all in there.
And these are the things that you think about daily, or some type of these things to bring
it's
you
the
back.
same memories that I get back.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't change often for some reason, but I think about my mom constantly, my wife, my kids. Those are kind of the three. My dad always hones back to that, and it juices me up, whether it's a legacy or something to improve or their future. And I think it's it juices me up. It's something that amps up my ambition, amps up my desire to win, and
this
it's
is
almost this unlimited reservoir to win is based on that. And if I don't do it, I don't have energy. There was a point in my life where I lost my dad. This is almost a couple years ago. And I've never been depressed in my life. And this is like over a year I was depressed. And I was lost. This is in Arizona. And it's funny because we drove here. I'd done seminars here. We drove here to buy the Jeep. I've done a whole bunch of stuff. My dad drove here one time for Christmas to Sedona. For Christmas alone. Because we went somewhere else. And he decided to do Christmas on his own by himself. Just to find himself. And it was in Sedona. So everything kind of led me back here. I rented an RV, and we drove the whole country to find the next home when I lost my dad. And we drove all the way to Texas, but we flew to Florida. But we scouted the whole country for a new home, and we ended up here. But I think everything was calling, Arizona.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Well, you're writing a daily song. We talked about that process, but I feel like those kind of routines set the stage, and every song needs the beat. That's the base, right? The foundation of every song is that. And every morning or whenever you do these routines, you're setting that foundation of the song for whatever that's going to sound like for the rest of the day. And it sounds like when you don't set that foundation, you feel it.
Oh, yeah.
And the song doesn't come out the way you want it to. But you set that foundation and you have a rock solid beat to work with, then the melodies just flow. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I love how you put that.
What's the you say success leaves clues a lot. Tell me about that.
Well, one, I borrowed it from Tony.
That's all right.
But it's so true, because
What does it mean to you?
there's always something to learn from somebody. And if you don't let ego get in the way, there's something I can learn from you or the homeless to anybody. We donated our time and money to the homeless during Thanksgiving. And I was just there, just kind of stuck in the moment. And I go, why us? And it does. Success leaves clues. Sometimes we have a choice, even especially if I'm homeless with Social Security number. If I'm a legal citizen in the United States, I still have a choice, And so there's a whole bunch of people there that don't have a, legitimate way to make an income, but they still make an income, whether it's selling oranges or whatever it is. And call me politically incorrect, but shit, I seen this all my life where they never had anything, but they're making $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month just because they're willing to work. And that's part of outworking your talent. So success leaves clues, man. So I don't care if it's the gardener that has his hustle on. When I was in real estate, I have a gardener. My gardener he bought 3 homes as a gardener, so I don't care who you are. So I just met somebody that does maintenance, and he's a client of mine now, but he does maintenance for a whole bunch of restaurants and businesses. The dude has 3-4 unit. It's not apartments, but 4-unit dwellings, right? And 5 different real estate, has income. They're all 4 out of 5 are paid off.
Wow.
This dude is, I mean, just hustled his way through.
He's working it.
They're paid cash.
Yeah. But if you looked at the outside and just put him in
If
the
you
maintenance
judged-
box,
Like he went to my house. He was filming my house as I was going in because he just never been in a house like that.
wow.
But as I was asking him questions, this dude had 4, SFRs or single family residents that were paid off.
Wow.
I'm like, I was in awe with him.
And he's your client now, you said?
Yeah.
You mentioned that offhandedly, but in all honesty, one of the reasons I hesitated to talk with you today is because I figured once you left, I'd have to find a new producer because you'd recruit Hassan to be on your team. You're a machine when it comes to the recruiting.
Yeah, I know.
But what's
Ready,
the
Hassan?
the recruiting machine is I'm sure it's a philosophy. One, I know you consider everybody a potential to live a better life, whatever that may mean. And so that's, I think Dream Givers was kind of born out of that.
Yeah, it's
And
actually based on a book by Bruce Wilkinson. It's called The Dream Givers. It's actually the same title. It's a Christian-based book based on parables with this journey of this person from a nobody and went into this unfamiliar land and wants to be somebody. And I related myself to it, and I'm like, man, that's our team name. That's our company. That's who we're going to be. We're going to spread dreams to each other or the public and give dreams away.
What year did
And
you start that?
This was probably 08.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
With 2 people, you and Miriam?
Yeah, and we had about in 2000, well, this is probably 06, 07. We had about 15 people in our squad. And this same vision was shared. It wasn't amplified as much, but I mean, that's what we shared. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you sit at 1,000 more across the U.S.
Approximately that.
Yeah. Wow.
We
that's
have
awesome.
1,000 agents helping out families and helping out expand our company and our distribution where we can help impact families in ways where it can give peace of mind to their house, peace of mind to their family, peace of mind to their marriage. A lot of people go to church, but their mind is so cluttered with fiscal responsibility, caught up in a rat race. They're caught up in, I don't know, just clutter, When you have, and I know this from experience, when you have stuff that just bother you and it goes up to your physiology, I'm talking about your neck to your shoulder, just cringes. It has everything, most of it has a lot to do with fiscal responsibility. So I linked our passion in helping people to relieve and basically just get rid of a lot of that stuff where it comes to a home is only a home. It's a house until it has peace of mind, then it becomes a home.
Mm-hmm. So you start the recruiting process with the idea
Like when I walked in this house, I felt peace of mind. So there's very big difference between a home and a house.
Yeah.
Most people have a house.
Yeah.
I walked in a home here.
That's awesome.
Your kids
Thank you for saying that.
You're homeschooling your kids. Your wife has peace of mind. There's no, I gave her a hug. There was complete peace of mind there. There was no worry.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. I think most Americans deserve that if they only knew the way.
So people start their initial response to you and what you have to offer maybe is fiscal oriented or financial oriented, but what they end up finding is way more than an additional paycheck or financial security. They end up finding
whether it's from a client perspective or from the opportunity.
Either. Yeah.
From the opportunity where, see, the thing is from a fiscal side of it, sometimes it's a 10 to 20 year game plan to get there, right? To become totally financially independent. But my passion has been on the leadership side of things where I can help somebody in 3 to 5 years where they can become completely free. That's kind of the big difference in those two things. You know, you think about 3 to 5 years and you're still in your 40s versus 20 to 30 years and you're in your 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
That's a big gap.
We were talking about that David Coggins guy. He calls it front loading.
Correct.
I'm front loading everything right now so that when I get to 50 or 60, I'm just living a good life.
Yeah.
I'm putting in the work now.
Yeah.
What, any regrets yet? I mean, you're still, shit, man, you just turned 40, but
Yeah.
you got a lot of life to live, but any regrets yet?
There's, I've always, my dad was a angry guy. A lot of times he resolved to anger, and I see myself going in there at times. So sometimes going, and sometimes I think I need anger management, you know.
Yeah.
But I just, as long as I know how to fuel that to something else, but sometimes I, put anger in my own household, which doesn't serve them. But yeah.
But you see it.
It could be that.
You see it, right?
Yeah. So
That's a big step. Just
Yeah,
acknowledging that's a piece of the puzzle.
the Paul Ireton from 10 years ago versus now is a less angrier guy. A lot less. I mean, I live in a state of fulfillment most of the time, but sometimes there's I don't know if you ever heard Bill Phillips. It's what's that book's name? Bill Phillips, we can look it up. But it's he had a book, and he says your bad habits lie in a quiet corner right there, just lingering for a weak moment to get you.
Little open window, it's coming through.
Fuck it.
Yeah.
It always, it always gets me.
Yeah.
And
That's human,
I
though.
think
That's
about
human.
that. It's like the fucking devil in the corner,
Yeah.
ready to get you in your weakest moment.
Yeah. But knowing
And if
that
you
he's
just
there.
Correct. Once you understand that,
Yeah.
you go, fuck you.
Yeah. As soon as that head appears.
I'm looking at your corner right there.
Yeah, I see that. I'm kind of afraid to look over my shoulder. I'm not
No.
sure what's there.
The fucking devil.
Well, the fact that you realize that is amazing. What about,
I lean to anger. Some people lean to worry. Like my wife leans to worry.
yeah.
Right? Some people worry. Some people go in anger. Some people go to frustration. Everybody has their almost like their comfort emotion that they go to,
Yeah.
or at least your most dominant emotion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's interesting to think about. I think, and there's a dichotomy usually between the husband and a good relationship. It's usually not the same, right? They're a little bit different. And you mentioned Christy can tend to lean towards that worrisome.
I think most women do.
Yeah, I think if you asked her, she would say, "I probably don't worry enough." Maybe that's on the opposite end of that
On your end?
spectrum. On my end,
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I barely worry.
yeah.
It's the last thing in my mind because I think everything will be just
Okay.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care if you're in freaking BK or someone's calling your number just because you're repo. I mean, I've done all this shit.
Right.
Or I mean,
You've lived it.
Yeah.
You've lived it.
I've called it where 3 a.m. Someone's fucking banging on my door for repo. My brother lives with me. He's renting for me. This is how we save money to accumulate wealth.
Yeah.
But someone's banging on my fucking door just 3 a.m. We're like, what the fuck is this? And we find out it's a repo guy. We hide, and he's banging for an hour. I mean, so after that, I'm like, I'm going to get a plate number once I paid off my car. And I'm going to go paid off cars, get better gas mileage. Fuck you.
Well done. Well said.
It was a Yukon XL. One of those.
Yeah.
long-
Oh, yeah. Those are nice.
Oh, I
too.
love those things.
Yeah.
I drove that car till I was done with it. But I felt so good because I had that plate number in the back.
In other words, you
Fuck you, never
the
knock
hard
on my
parts
door kind of thing. Yeah.
You've lived the hard parts, and so when those
Yeah.
so when things come
I
around
get it.
now, they're not the repo guy. It's something less.
Yeah, it's almost. I mean, I'm gonna quote P Diddy. He goes, "Man, more money, more problems." But it is what it is. I looked at that quote with Maze and Puff Daddy.
Yep.
What really he was saying is the more I can handle, the less it's abrasive to my spirit, or at least it doesn't affect me as much because I can handle bigger problems. So our job as human beings is not so much to deal with small problems, it's to be able, our ability to deal with bigger problems. And then after that, it's our comfort level, so we can deal with bigger problems after that.
And too many times, people take the small problems and make them the big ones.
Fuck
but
yeah.
the real good guys,
that
like
is
you,
the
have been
fucking
able
issue.
to make the big problems small, or seemingly small.
That's-
So most people, they'll go, "Oh shit, look at that," and you're going, "Oh, this is child's play."
That is the definition of genius. It's taking big shit and turning it small. You know what I mean? That is literally it. If we took Einstein right now and we put him in the room, his definition of genius is take that big shit and make it look small.
Yep.
I'm gonna fucking nail that shit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you leave to the kids if you could say something and we play this back 10 years from now when they're struggling, going through a hard time? What do you tell your kids?
It's temporary. Doesn't last that long. So make sure you last. Make sure you pick the right partner, because that's everything. And I'm just blessed that I did, and that she, meaning Miriam, was willing to hang out with me long enough for me to be better. So I'm going to put that as a caveat, because looking at me back then, I was angry a lot. And I don't know if I would live with me. You know, I just constantly angry and frustrated, and because it was my fuel.
I was just thinking she might have been
so patient
and wise enough to see that was your fuel.
She saw the ambition.
She saw that was your
and
fuel.
she fell in love with the right
version of you.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And now she's got it.
And thank God for that, because I'm thinking about that. I mean, we could end up with the statistics of 3 out of 4 type of thing.
Yep. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Let's
Marry the right person, right? And stick there long enough until you win, because everything is temporary. Not everything lasts. All the hurts, all the fucking depression or loneliness doesn't last that long. And I've never been depressed in my life, but I have while I was here in Arizona, while even hanging out with, I don't know if it was, maybe I was fine at that time, but before that, I was just, my biggest fear is fear of death. When it's happened to my own dad, it just kind of broke me down.
And you've come out of it.
Yeah.
That's a story.
Yeah.
Let's do this again.
I got to
That was
piss
awesome.
right now.
Thank you. Cheers.
Acrylic Financial Incorporated is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by those on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Acrylic Financial. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance, and some guests may have been paid a fee to be interviewed for this show.